Okay, so I'm always getting asked about like top coats and things like that. And I realized I haven't done like an updated one in quite a while. So this is one that I glittered last night. Um, I'm gonna let you see the side view. Um, so I'm going to be putting the first coat now over my glitter application once it's dried. Like I usually let these dry overnight after I've glittered them. And then for my first coat, I like to do kind of a thinner coat. And I like to like really kind of take my time and kind of let it really work into the glitter and let it absorb really good. So this is the grand finale, and I had already twirled my bottle because I've already been doing top coats, but you kind of just want to like either tilt your bottle back and forth just a little bit or swirl it just to kind of get it moved around a little if it's been sitting for a while. And hopefully I stay in frame with this. So for this first one, I'm just going to, put some on there. Okay. And then I just kind of put my finger right in the middle and just slowly like move like in, kind of a circular motion just to help it start to like spread. And then I gently just kind of go, I actually probably put a little bit too much on this, but I just try to just work my way around towards the edges. But I did kind of put a little bit heavier than what I normally would. But I just try to make sure I just slowly go all around and make sure like, the glitter is like absorbing it for that first coat. Usually I try to do a thinner coat only because for the first time because it's more porous like still, from the glitter being like rough and everything. And so to me, when I do kind of a thinner coat, I feel like I don't really get any bubbles that try to like form, but this one's not really giving any bubbles. I think there was like one there. If I see any immediately surface, I kind of just, try to pop them or whatever. So that's what I do for that. Let me go grab another one so I can maybe try to do a thinner one. Okay. So here's the second one. And, that's probably more about how much I put for the first coat. And I just like really just spread it out. Get it kind of, I'm not like putting a lot of pressure, but I'm like working it into the glitter. Like I'm kind of just going a little bit slow with it just to try to help it soak into the glitter. Yeah, so this was a much thinner coat. I don't know if you'll be able to kind of tell. And when it gets kind of cloudy, don't worry about that. It'll clear up. It'll just usually get cloudy from it like now being exposed to like the air and everything. But it does clear up. So that was the first one, and this one's the second one. And from my angle, like from the side view, like I can tell, like this one I did a much thinner coat than this one. But yeah, I just kind of try to do that, and I'll look at it shortly after just to see if there's any bubbles forming, and I'll just rub them off like I did there, and that just kind of helps with that. So let me set that down now. Let me wipe my finger off. And then for the ones that have already received a top coat, so these next ones that I have right here next to me, they've already gotten a top coat. So with the second coat, I don't mind going heavier. And for right now, I'm going to use a brush. Usually for my glittering, I'll just use my finger, but I have a lot of acrylics right now to top coat, and I don't usually like when I have to do several back to back and I get a bunch of buildup on my finger. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a brush. I love using these really cheap brushes from Amazon. I like them because when using a brush, you're really not supposed to like be bending your bristles a lot. And so the way these are made, they don't bend very easily. Like they're kind of more stiff. The bristles are soft, but they don't like bend very easily. And that kind of helps prevent like a lot of bubbles forming. But also one of my tips that I always say, so this one I'm going to put like quite a bit. Hold on. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I'm like on camera. So I'm going to kind of put a good amount. Hopefully you can kind of see that. And then the first time around, I let my bristles soak into the product, because to me that has been more effective also with preventing like an increased amount of bubbles. Let me move my bottle quick. And then I just start to like just, you know, work it around to all the edges. So yeah, so after the first coat, then I'm more comfortable going in with like heavier coats. Okay. And then if I have like any trying to like spill off to the side, I just use my fingernail or just, you know, rub if I have accidentally spilt over a little bit. Remember, this is a non-toxic product, so you don't have to wear gloves. It's not like UV resin or epoxy where you're supposed to wear gloves and not touch it, which I love that about this product, because I don't really care to have to like craft with gloves and stuff like a lot. And then if I see any bubbles immediately surface, I just drag them off to the side. So let me do another one here. This one is a little bit more shaped, and what I do for stuff like this is I just kind of, you know, pour it out like throughout the shape so that I'm not struggling to get just some from the middle and all the way out to the different parts of it. And I am barely putting any pressure with my brush. I'm basically just kind of like grabbing the top of the top coat and just dragging it. I'm not really like pressing onto the acrylic itself. So I'm just basically just shifting the top coat around and taking it out to the edges. Okay, and that's that. And you can get these done pretty quickly. Like I probably would have done that even faster. But I'm trying to stay in camera frame. And I have a bunch of stuff everywhere right now from working on orders. So, and then I'll go ahead and do this other one. And so I'm going to just kind of pour a good amount on there. Okay, and then just gently glide my brush. Oh gosh, hopefully I was in frame there, sorry. I am so terrible at that. Okay, and then there's a bubble right here, so I just drag it off. Okay, and there's that. Now, pretty much the same thing with acrylics that already have your decal on. You can pour like a good amount in the middle and work your way around, or you can do another technique that I'll show you. So this one I'm gonna just pour some in the middle and see. It's a pretty good amount. It might be kind of hard to tell like from your angle, but like from the side angle, like it's a pretty good puddle that I poured on there. And then, because I'm kind of heavy-handed, so you don't have to do thick coats. I kind of go more on the thicker side, but that's also okay for me because I don't usually get to work on a lot of my items, but like twice a day, at the most maybe 3 times. So doing heavier coats is not so bad for me because it has plenty of time to dry since I don't get to work on them like all throughout the day. And then what I'll do is after I've spread this, I will set it down and then grab a different one, and while that one is sitting, I'll allow any bubbles to that maybe want to try to surface. Okay, and then another way you can do your top coats, let me try to make sure I stay in frame here, is you can do several drops like all around the acrylic. Okay, like you're doing like drops that border all the way around. And that can kind of help reduce some bubbles too, because you're putting less product in one spot, and you're easily able to spread it out that way too. And you're just going to drag your brush all around and you're going to connect like all those drops. Okay, and I just usually kind of work my way around the border where I went around with all the drops, and then go through the middle. And it helps to kind of like I won't be able to show you on camera, but I'll kind of pick it up, eye level, angle it in some lighting, and see if there's any bubbles that like immediately surface before I set it down. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to I just kind of go like this, and I just angle it in different ways, because you can kind of move it around and it's not going to spill out unless you just hold it still for, you know, like a while. So I just try to see if there's any that immediately surface, and I take them off. And then I'll set it down, and I'll come back to the one that I did before, and I'll just check it and see if it has any bubbles, or if it looks like I maybe didn't, you know, spread the product out on a spot or something, like if I missed a spot. And if I did, then I would just, you know, drag my brush and swirl it a little bit to make it cover it. But this one looks fine. I think there's one little bubble, but yeah. So anyway, so that's that. And then I'll check I'll just go back and check the one after it sat down for a little while, and if I see any bubbles, if I see a bubble, I just get the corner of my brush and I'll just like go like this and just drag it towards the edge, and it'll like pop. So all right guys, hopefully that helped. Let me know if you have any other questions. This one I didn't, you know, do as heavy as a coat, because that's more like if you want to, if you're not comfortable like doing a whole bunch, or if you want it to be heavy and still spread around, just do several more drops. So yeah, so that's it. You just want to make sure to give it plenty of dry time if you're going to do heavier coats. So you're not going to do just the usual 2 hours. You'll want to go anywhere from 3 to 4, depending on the temperature in your room, and how heavy you went. I a lot of times will use a heat lamp for my area where I let my acrylics dry in the colder months, or at night when my house feels like a lot cooler. I'll use a heat lamp near my area. Other than that, you know, I just give them more dry time. And once they're dry, if they still feel like, if they feel a little bit tacky or look cloudy, then you need to let it dry more. So you don't want it to be like, you know, really tacky or kind of sticky feeling. It should feel, it won't be like super hard, but it should feel like, you know, dry to touch and not very tacky. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching.